the Retired Racehorse Project is just one of the brilliant ones. They've been around, and I love their staff. I love what they're doing. I love their message. So good.
I got a COVID horse. And I just wanted to share my COVID horse. And he was a great guy. And his 16-hand dark bay. His name is Uncle Grumpy.
No.
And he was anything but grumpy. He was black. He was gorgeous. But when he first came, he was a handful full of beans. Scrape him off the ceiling. So my friend and I, Patrick, and who was going to be with us tonight but couldn't because his mare was falling out, he helped me with him because I'm old and he's not old. And we hacked him out. We very quietly exposed him to what we thought were different things, but maybe he'd seen them. We don't know because we didn't get too much of a history, but he had raced like the month previous. And hacked him out. Just did some light walking, did a few little fun things to teach him to pick his feet up in a different way than maybe what he was used to. And of course, we just worked on the ground and did lots of just, it's okay, you're going to be okay, and walking and that type of thing.
Most of my growing up was involved in training the racehorse. Dad's involvement was in training the racehorses, not me. He was. He started all the racehorses here as yearlings and then going into their second year, right? So he'd buy them as yearlings, grow them up a little bit, and then start their training. And that was, he and my mom topped the sales here in California for 18, 20 years. And it was, I don't know if they'll break the record because they shut the sales down eventually at Hollywood Park, you know, when that went away. And anyway, they had a really standing reputation of being able to start all these babies. So that's what really grew out of our growing up, is we showed Western and English and anything I could get High Point on, I'd show it. But the thoroughbreds is how our family was fed, really. So we have a lot of connection in the thoroughbred industry. And it made sense that when what we were doing here at the school, the Monty Roberts International Learning Center is the school where we started teaching the join up and getting instructors certified. And that was the interest when he went on tour. But what we ended up doing was calling up a lot of these rescues and places, because funny enough, people had championship horses didn't want us experimenting and learning on their horses. You know, they wouldn't let us play with their horses in order to teach join up. So we went to the rescues and said, you know, can we work with some of these horses that are healthy and put some training on them and then give them back and help you find them to be more adoptable? And they said, Yahoo. So we did about 25 a year or so for years, Laura. I mean, like I'm slow on the uptake. We did this for years without thinking we're actually kind of doing that. You know, we're actually transitioning horses to new vocations, but we're not the adoption partner. So this wonderful initiative happened, a really cool group of people, Christy Counts, Christy Cappert. They put this thing called the Right Horse Initiative together. So there was a network that needed to be set up, right? You really needed to have a network so that reiner that some 12-year-old kid needs in Florida, because he's you know, ready for his next level. And back in California, there's a horse that is ready to retire at 12 or something, you know, he's still got life ahead of him and can be a good teacher, but he's not going to be going and blowing with a professional anymore. Why can't you get those two together? You know, and that made perfect sense to me too. And they said, jeepers, very few are doing 100 horses a year. And I said, given our circumstances, I think we could, you know? And so we worked on it with them for a couple of years, getting our ducks in a row, and launched it in 2020 in October on live streaming TV to Horse and Country again. And, you know, for us, it was what we were always doing, but we never were purposeful about rescuing OTTBs necessarily.
This is Nashville Knight, and he is, in this one, this was one of his final races in 2018. I just want to show this. So we're going to watch this. This is one of his final races. He's number 3, so he's right here in front. And this is what I didn't see this when before I bought him. I just kind of did a search on the internet to see if I could see a race that he did, because he raced a lot, like around 50 races. He was an 8-year-old when he stopped racing.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's like a war horse of the racing world. And yeah, and he came off the track. That was him. He won, and and he was an awesome horse. So he landed at the track, and like he was ready to go. He was done racing. He didn't really want to race anymore. If you looked at his records, he was good, and then the next year he was really good, and then the placings finally got slower and slower and slower. So he was sold off the racetrack in 2018, and then he had a year off where got his nutrition back on track and his feet back on track, and his everything kind of learned how to be a horse. Because a lot of times these horses, they don't know how to be a horse, do they?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so glad you rescued him, by the way.
When you talk about your father going out and watching the Mustangs and learning their language, well, when you buy one of these guys and put them out with your herd, they have no idea what ears back means. They have no idea of any of that. So he went to the school of hard knocks, where he would come in and every day there'd be a bite or a kick mark, and I don't think that's being cruel, but it teaches them how to be a horse, really, and the horse language.
Exactly.
And we really just kind of took it easy with him and walked and taught him it was okay. And, he didn't need to be worried about being cinched up really tightly, really. So we just kind of took our time, walked over the poles so that he learned how to pick his feet up this way instead of always pushing forward and trying to teach him to carry himself, right? So if you look at this again, and this is him here racing, right? This is Nashville Night. And the start. I mean, that's all he really knew how to do.
Right.
Okay, so now I want to show you him now. Let's see if I can just get this off here. So this is May of this year. After 2 months, let's say. I don't exactly know. This is May. So we're June. This was last month. And I sold him just up there. So there he is, trotting.
Look at that nice top
line. Let's just steady. And that's really what we focused on, just being steady and quiet and nice and just being a quiet horse. So then I sold this guy to a 12, 13-year-old who wanted to start riding, who wanted to start doing some eventing.
Perfect.
And so it's just, they can do anything, I really think. And I think that's, for me, thoroughbreds are it. They're smart, they're sensitive, they're great creatures, they're athletic, they're lovely animals.
Yeah. And look at that poor horse, too. I mean, how much did they produce for an owner? That was, yeah. So, yeah, they deserve. I mean, gosh, a lot of people go like, wow, he made it all the way to 8. Now think about that. 8 is a long time at the racetrack. It's true. Yeah. But an 8-year-old quarter horse, I mean, he's not even to the prime yet,
No, exactly.
He's got a lot of life left in them.